All right, so buckle up, everyone, because today we're diving into a story that takes time travel, throws in alternate timelines, and, well, it gets kind of messy. We're talking about a regular guy who gets the power to rewrite reality. And trust me, it's not as straightforward as it sounds.
Oh, yeah, it definitely gets complicated.
It really does.
Yeah.
So what happens when someone stumbles upon a power they never even imagined? And how do even those tiny choices end up changing the course of history?
Some pretty big questions there.
Yeah, that's what we're going to try to unpack today.
I'm ready.
And lucky for us, we've got our expert here whose insights are going to help us make sense of all the twists and turns in this story.
Happy to help untangle things.
Okay, so let's meet our protagonist, Elliot Greaves. He's a 25-year-old janitor living a pretty predictable life. Wake up at 6 a.m., throw on that same old uniform, head to the local high school floors, bathrooms, the drill. Not exactly the start of a sci-fi thriller, right?
Not exactly glamorous.
Nope. But one night, as Elliot's cleaning out the school basement, he finds something that completely flips his world upside down. Hidden under this dusty tarp, there's a sleek metallic device, think refrigerator-sized humming, with this otherworldly blue light. It's covered in these pulsing alien symbols that just scream advanced technology.
Whoa.
Right. There's a single seat, a control panel with buttons and dials that Elliot's never seen before in his life.
Yeah.
And, because why not, he presses what looks like the power button. A screen lights up, flashing with words in a language he doesn't even recognize. But then, like he can sense his confusion, it translates into English. Temporal navigation system initialized. Enter destination time. Now, if you found yourself staring at a machine like that, what would you do?
I mean, honestly, wouldn't you be a little tempted to take it for a spin?
Totally. It's like a giant do not touch sign, but for time travel. So Elliot, in a moment of pure curiosity, decides to go for it.
Where does he go first?
He punches in a date we all know, July 20th, 1969, the moon landing. Right. Straps himself in, hits activate, and bam. Blinding light, feels like he's being stretched through time and space, and then silence.
So is he on the moon?
Not quite. He finds himself in a town square, surrounded by people decked out in 1960s clothes, everyone buzzing about Neil Armstrong's giant leap. He just time traveled to witness one of the most iconic moments in human history. Pretty cool, right?
Definitely a bucket list item for a lot of people.
Absolutely. But here's where things take a turn. After soaking it all in, Elliot decides to head back to the present. Back to his apartment, back to his routine, or so he thinks. The TV channel's different, his neighbors are acting weird, his phone contacts are all messed up.
Uh-oh. Sounds like something went wrong.
Yeah, it slowly dawns on him. Every time he uses the machine, he's not just visiting the past, he's creating an entirely new timeline.
Oh, wow. So his old life is gone.
Pretty much. Replaced by a reality that's been changed, sometimes in subtle ways, sometimes drastically, all because of his actions.
Okay, now it's starting to make sense why things got so messy. So it's not just time travel, it's like creating alternate realities.
Exactly. And that's where this idea of branching timelines comes in. It's not just a straight line from past to present to future. Think of it like every time Elliot travels, it creates a fork in the road, leading to a different version of reality. And with every trip, he becomes responsible not just for his own fate, but for the fate of everyone in those new timelines.
Whoa, that's a heavy burden. A lot of power for one guy.
Right. And initially, Elliot doesn't even realize the weight of what he's doing. He just keeps taking these trips, getting more and more obsessed with the machine and all the possibilities. He's checking out ancient civilizations, witnessing major historical events, even sneaking peeks into the future.
Wow, that's got to be tempting.
No, totally. But with every trip, he's adding another branch to this crazy timeline tree, having to adapt to a whole new reality each time he comes back to the present.
Can you give us an example? Like, how do things change?
Well, in one timeline, he's a local hero because he saved a kid from a runaway carriage. Feels good, right?
That sounds heroic.
But then in another timeline, poof, his job at the school just vanishes.
Seriously, so these changes are kind of random.
Yeah, they seem random, but they start to paint a pretty disturbing picture. It's like Elliot's playing roulette with reality.
I see where you're going with this. So what happens when he starts trying to make bigger changes?
Well, feeling a little too confident in his abilities, Elliot decides to aim higher. He sets his sights on 1776, wants to tweak the signing of the Declaration of Independence.
He wants to what?
I know, right? He thinks, just a tiny change here, a little nudge there, what could go wrong? But when he gets back to the present,
Don't tell me. It's a disaster.
it's a complete disaster. The United States doesn't even exist. Centuries of war have ravaged the planet. Cities are unrecognizable. Technology's gone backward. It's a full-blown dystopian nightmare. And it's all because Elliot thought he could just mess with history.
It's like he's learning the hard way that those what-if scenarios can have some seriously dark outcomes.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a huge wake-up call for Elliot. Suddenly, those fun little time travel joyrides don't seem so fun anymore.
I bet.
The weight of his actions, the responsibility for all those lives and all those timelines, it hits him hard. But just when he's spiraling, the machine throws him another curveball, the screen flickers, and this message pops up. User warning, temporal stability compromised, contact origin point. And there's a new option, initiate communication with creators. Now, Elliot's confused and more than a little freaked out, but he presses the button.
What happens? Does he meet the aliens who built this thing?
The room starts to hum, and then this holographic figure appears. It looks humanoid, but definitely alien, with long limbs and skin that shimmers and refracts light.
So, not your typical little green men scenario.
Not even close. It's like a walking embodiment of advanced technology, like something straight out of a high-budget sci-fi movie. And Elliot, completely panicking, blurts out, "You mean you've been watching me this whole time?" And the alien figure, completely calm, replies, "We have monitored your actions. The device was left on your world as an experiment to observe how an untrained individual might handle temporal manipulation."
Oh, wow. So it was all a test.
A cosmic test.
Huh.
And Elliot, well, he's not exactly getting an A+. But then the alien continues, "You have exceeded expectations but also caused significant disruptions. We can guide you, but the task requires your cooperation. You must revisit key points in the timelines you altered and restore the original sequences of events."
So he's got a chance to fix things.
Yeah, he's got a chance to redeem himself. But it's going to be a long, complicated journey trying to undo the damage he's caused across all those different timelines, all while these mysterious alien beings are watching his every move. And that's where we'll pick up next time.
It's wild how Elliot goes from this excited time traveler, just amazed by all the possibilities, to someone who's totally crushed by what he's done.
I know, right? It's like he went from woohoo, time travel,
Yeah.
to, oh man, what have I done? And now he's got this cosmic cleanup crew watching his every move.
Talk about pressure. So does he actually manage to fix things?
Well, with the aliens guiding him, Elliot starts trying to set things right. He's going back to all those messed up timelines, trying to undo the changes he made without causing even more ripples. Imagine trying to untangle a huge knot, where every time you pull on something, it could make things worse. That's what Elliot's dealing with.
It sounds incredibly complicated. Like, how do you even begin to fix something like that?
That's the thing. It's not as easy as just hitting undo. Elliot has to figure out this whole web of cause and effect, He has to try to predict what will happen with every little change he makes. It's a huge lesson in humility, realizing that even with a time machine, you can't control everything.
That makes sense. So what are some of the challenges he faces?
Well, there are timelines where his past self has already messed things up. Situations where just being there creates paradoxes, and then there's the constant fear of making things even worse.
Yeah.
It's like he's walking a tightrope through history.
I can't even imagine, but it sounds like he's learning a lot along the way.
Oh, absolutely. He's gaining this whole new understanding of history, not just as dates and events, but as something made up of people's lives and choices. He's seeing how everything's connected, how even a tiny action can have massive consequences. Make you think about all the choices we make every day, doesn't it?
It really does. Like, we might not have time machines, but our choices still matter.
Yeah, exactly. And remember that timeline where Elliot became a hero for saving that kid from the runaway carriage?
Yeah, what about it?
Well, when he goes back to undo that, he finds out something crazy. That kid was actually meant to become this amazing scientist, someone whose discoveries would help all of humanity.
Wait, so by saving the kid, he might have actually messed up the future.
Exactly. By fixing the past, he might have erased a future full of progress and amazing inventions. It's a total moral dilemma. And it shows you that even when you're trying to do good, messing with time can have some really bad consequences.
It's like, who are we to decide what should or shouldn't happen?
Right. If you had that power, could you resist trying to fix things, even knowing the risks?
That's a tough one.
But Elliot, even with all his mistakes, keeps going. He's driven by this sense of responsibility, this need to fix the things he messed up. And through each challenge, each near disaster, he's becoming more than just a guy with a time machine. He's becoming a better person.
It's amazing how this journey through time becomes a journey of self-discovery for him. He's facing his own limitations, seeing that he's capable of both good and bad. It's a really powerful message about personal growth and how we can all change for the better.
And while he's dealing with all this time travel chaos, He's also learning more about the beings who gave him this power in the first place. Turns out, that alien figure isn't just one being. It's like a collective consciousness, a hive mind that spans galaxies and has been watching humanity for who knows how long.
Wow. So they're not just interested in time travel.
Nope. They're interested in understanding consciousness, choice, and the potential for growth in species like ours. Elliot, through all his struggles and triumphs, is becoming a case study in what it means to be human.
So it's bigger than just one guy messing around with time travel. It's about what it means to be human, to make choices, and to face the consequences.
Exactly. And speaking of facing consequences, Elliot finally gets to the point where he's fixed all the major timeline disruptions. He's exhausted, emotionally drained, but he did it. He brought balance back to all the chaos he created.
That's got to feel amazing.
He returns to the original timeline, back to his life as a janitor. And as he's standing there, back in his familiar surroundings, the time machine hums to life one last time.
What happens? Did the aliens come back?
The alien figure reappears and says, "You have restored stability. The device will now be deactivated. You have proven that even imperfect beings can learn responsibility."
Wow. So it's over.
The machine shuts down, the lights fade, and its power is gone. Eliot's left standing there, alone, with the weight of everything he's experienced heavy on his heart.
What happens to him after that?
He goes back to his routine, back to mopping floors and cleaning bathrooms. But he's not the same Elliot Greaves who found that alien machine all those weeks ago. He's seen too much, experienced too much, to ever see the world in the same way again.
I bet. He's carrying a lot with him now.
He's carrying the secret of time travel, the memory of his mistakes, and the hope that comes from knowing that even imperfect beings can find redemption. And as he walks those halls, he can't help but wonder what other secrets might be hiding in the most ordinary places.
That's a great point. It makes you think about all the mysteries that might be out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And that's where we will leave Elliot's story for now. But before we wrap up this deep dive, there's one last thought I want to leave you with. Elliot's story might seem like, just a wild sci-fi adventure, but it really makes you think, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. It raises some big questions about what it means to be human, especially when we're talking about power like that. Like, could we handle something like time travel without completely messing things up?
Right. Are we responsible enough for that?
That's the question, isn't it? And Elliot's story, even with all the mistakes he made and the things he had to learn, shows us that maybe, just maybe, we can.
Yeah, it shows that messing up is part of being human. But facing those consequences, dealing with the fallout of our choices, that's what can help us grow, help us become better, more responsible people.
Absolutely. It's like that saying, with great power comes great responsibility. Elliot learned that the hard way. But in the end, he stepped up and did what he had to do.
Exactly. And here's the thing that really gets me. Elliot's story, as crazy as it is, it speaks to something that's true for all of us. We might not have time machines, but every single day, we make choices that affect not just ourselves, but everyone around us.
That's such a good point. It's like that butterfly effect we talked about.
Yeah.
Every decision we make, every interaction we have sets off a chain of events.
It's all connected.
And Elliot's story, I think, is a reminder to be more mindful of the consequences of our choices, even the little ones, because they all add up.
So as you go about your day, your week, think about it. What choices will you make? What ripples will you create? Will you take responsibility for the power of your actions, no matter how big or small?
It's something to think about, for sure. And here's one last thought to leave you with. If you had the chance to use a time machine, even just for a little while, what event would you be tempted to see, or maybe even try to change? And what unexpected consequences might come from that?
Whoa, that's a big question. It's tempting to think about going back and fixing things, isn't it? But Eliot's story is a pretty clear warning. The past isn't really ours to control. Even the smallest changes can have huge, unpredictable effects.
It's definitely something to consider.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Elliot Greaves and that mysterious alien machine, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and remember the power and the responsibility that comes with being human. Because even in the most ordinary lives, there's the potential for something extraordinary.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us on this journey through time and consequences. Until next time, stay curious and keep those timelines stable.